Mojo Monday, Rick Hale.
Mojo Monday to you, Brett Caldwell.
All right.
We're at it again, man.
We are at it. We're still in your book. I mean,
we are.
This is real. I asked you before, and I've asked you probably a few times, but I mean, like, the experience I'm guessing was very surreal for you, publishing a book and being vulnerable and letting people read it, and then now getting feedback, and the feedback's coming in really good. And here we are on Mojo Monday going through this entire book, and you're over there like recording the audio. You got your radio voice going on. So when could somebody get a copy of the audio book, you think?
Well, Brett Caldwell, the audio should be available shortly. Yeah, if things go well, it'll be inside of the next 60 or 90. And to be honest, by the time this is, publicly, we're sending all this to a public podcast strategy. It'll already be out. So before you know it, and possibly already, just go to Amazon.com and check it out.
I remember my wife and I took a road trip and we listened to Matthew McConaughey audio of Green Lights. And by the end of it, my wife was like, I don't know that I like his voice as much as I did on chapter 1.
Wow. And he's considered, in your head. Yeah, he's considered the penultimate audio voice guy. He tells good stories. He's an actor.
I loved it. Well, anyway, we're in chapter 8 today, and the chapter's titled Make the Most of Every Day. And I thought, what a sunshine, optimistic, just fun title to a chapter. Tell me about that title, first of all.
Well, I'll start with something I read. In fact, just yesterday, it said, yesterday's history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is all you really have. And so when you say make the most of every day, the idea is that you're only guaranteed right now, and so if you're going to invest your time and energy right now, why not make the most of it? So that's in generality, and we'll dig in a little more with some other realities around goal setting and why today matters more than next week or the week after.
Yeah. Well, I think let's pull the band back on the perspective for a second. Your book's about stop settling, and it's about understanding different areas of your life and setting goals and being actionable around those goals. Yet making the most out of every day is really the context of, hey, listen, you're really trying to live a big life, and there's goals and action inside of that. But how do we drill it down to a single day and make the most out of that day? That's really what I think this chapter is kind of summarized as being. Would you agree?
I 100% agree. I mean, it's all about operating with high level intentionality and being purposeful in how you schedule and plan, and not letting, it's just commonly known that if you don't schedule your day, someone else will. The world will take advantage of you, and it may not be to your advantage. And so by scripting a scenario that ensures your intentions show up in your day planner and part of your plan, the likelihood of feeling great about yourself and being regret-free at some point about life in general as a whole, I mean, that's the secret to a life well lived.
Absolutely. I found it funny because on Thursday last week, I was talking about the 4 disciplines of execution with some of our top agents, written by Stephen Covey. And here it is in the beginning of this chapter, just showing up again, which I love. But it really kind of breaks down the mindset and the strategies, how to win the day, how to make the most out of each day, right? But it takes the bigger goal and then breaks it down into what you reference in the chapter and Stephen references in his book called lead measures. Why don't you give me just a quick definition of what's a lead measure?
So, leading and lagging indicators is a big conversation, and I think it is in Covey's book too. So the deal is this: most people measure success by lagging indicators. Those are things that have already happened. That's looking in the rear view at your performance and results. And there's no flaw in that. You've got to track history to be able to track the future. But at the same time, if all you focus on are lagging indicators, they don't really trigger what has to happen today. Leading indicators are the things that if you do now effectively today, tomorrow's a better day and the outcomes are better than the lagging results. So it's really about what you're focusing on. And it's more inspiring, to be honest, to focus on leading indicators. And what I found with people who are, quiet quitters, if you will, or subtly give up, is that they focus so much on the lagging indicator. And when those results don't come in exciting and glowing and awesome, and, remember, most things don't happen fast, especially big initiatives and life-changing, initiatives. It takes time, and it takes time on task overtime, and it's slow and then sudden. But by virtue of staring down the lagging indicators, if yesterday, last week, and last year aren't exciting for you, it's real easy to come to the conclusion that maybe you're not doing the right thing, or you're not the right person, or it's not the right vocation, and you quit. And so I think quitters stare at the lagging indicators when they're awesome. Winners stare at the leading indicators and make every day another trip to the woodshed, chopping down the trees that need to be chopped.
Yeah. All day long.
Yep.
And in order to win the day, you got to be really crystal clear on what those leading indicators are, right?
100%. Yeah. If you're not clear, the worst thing you can do is do the wrong thing all day and then expect a different result. I think insanity, the definition of insanity, is linked to that mentality.
Yeah. There's an awesome gentleman named Gene Rivers that I know he's close with you, and he's certainly poured into my life over the years. And the quote in the book that you quote him says, the war is won daily. It's not won weekly. It's not won monthly. And it's certainly not won annually, but it's won daily.
Yeah.
And the first time I read that, I was like, okay, I get the where he's trying to say, but I do think there's weekly goals. I do think there's annual goals. I think there's monthly goals. Like we break them down that way. What's my annual goal? What's my goal for the month of April? What's my, so how can you be so literal to say the war is won daily?
Well, reality around winning the war daily is that if you sync up enough winning days together, you'll have winning weeks. And when you sync up enough winning weeks, consecutively, you'll have winning months. You string 12 of those together, you're going to have your best year ever. But the idea too is that if you stare at annual goals and then you don't break it down into bite-sized pieces that you can manage from a task perspective, this goes back to leading. These are the leading indicators. These are the tasks that have to happen today, that if I do them this week and I do it 4 days in a row or 5 days in a row, this week becomes an awesome, productive week. And I don't mean productive just at work. I mean, pull out your life wheel and go all 12 categories and make sure that the leading indicators for success leads to a holistic experience.
Yeah.
And make sure it's baked into a program or a strategy or a schedule, if you will. And we'll talk about the day planner, I'm sure, and how to use that effectively. But going back to the story, though, Gene was teaching. I had him come as a guest speaker and teach to our top leaders in the Leadership Council. And he asked everybody, he said, "What do you have big goals this year? Are your goals like awesome? Are you excited by them? If you are, raise your hand." And, the 99% raised their hand. We have awesome big goals. And then he said, keep your hand up if you're absolutely sure you're going to nail it. And I was stunned as a leader of leaders. 75% dropped their hands. And he was stunned, I think. And his response was like, why on earth would you ever have big goals and not have an idea of how to attain them and a strategy that guarantees success? And at that moment, it was kind of one of those epiphany, eye-opening moments of, why would you? That's why we fail and recalibrate and reset every year, is that we have goals that are either we don't really believe in them, or we don't have a strategy to achieve it, or possibly don't have role models to emulate to get there quickest.
But I also think what you just said, you fail, you recalibrate, and you reset. I think that's why the war's won daily.
Yeah. Well, you can fix a day. Yeah, you can fix a day, but in December 31st, you can't fix the year. Yeah. It's too late, right? And so he went on to say the war is won daily. When I wrote that down, that's why it's in the book, and I credit him for that aha moment for me. And then he said, if you don't have a masterful daily plan that you can stack end to end, you're going to fail or come up short or get distracted because you're not hyper-focused. And to be honest, most human beings are really good at sprinting. They're not good at marathon running when it comes to staying on point and on track with an initiative.
100%. Another thing I wrote down out of this chapter is you wrote, every goal you should really challenge yourself to ask who instead of how. And
right.
Why I think that's so impactful, and I want to get your perspective around who, but I want to make a comment around how first. I think a lot of people get hyper focused into how to make something happen, so much that actually that focus causes them to actually make it not happen, because they were so focused on how instead of going for it and figuring out a little bit along the way how it is supposed to happen. They get caught up in planning to plan to plan to plan and never take action.
Yeah, I mean, in any sales and commission position, the people that succeed at the highest level are usually the ones that fail often and try a lot, not the ones that sit around trying to masterfully create the perfect plan. Perfect plans that take months to achieve, you'll go broke before you ever execute the first call.
Yeah.
And close the first deal. So that's part of what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
So analysis paralysis is the worst scenario of all. At least go out and test market what you think you should do, gauge it, recalibrate, and then reset, but not monthly or yearly. Do it in a day. And so the quicker you get into action, the more likely you are to gather feedback about the optimal path that gets you there quickest based on your personality type and your approach, and maybe the way your clients are receiving the information.
There you go. All right. So you talked about the day planner, and
But hey, one more thing about the who though. Let's finish. I just realized we didn't really close the loop on who. So if you know what to do, Brett, the real challenge, and it hasn't happened already, there's either a who that needs to be in your world. And by the way, it's not who's going to do it for you. It could be, maybe it is a leverage question in who, but it might be who's the role model or who's the accountability partner to hold you to standards that you've established for it. It's rare that I ask somebody, when I'm coaching through the wheel of life, or even in just business, that I go, well, what should you be doing right now that gives you a quantum leap opportunity to double or triple your income? Most people have an answer. The question is, why haven't you done it? And the who part might be, again, it could be leverage to take things off your plate so that you're more focused and less distracted. Or the who could be a consultant or accountability partner or role model to more effectively manage that perfect win the war day.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, me included, I mean, how many goals have I just gone after alone? That TV show Alone's kind of crazy TV show, but like you don't have any help when you're alone.
Yeah.
And life is actually better realized with others, right? And I think that's what you're kind of alluding to is, you may have all these goals and you may have this life plan that you want to live out, but if you take that entire journey alone, it won't be as rewarding.
Not for most people, unless you're a computer programmer and like dark rooms. It's not, that's great. And again, there's different styles for different people. But if you're in the people business, man, there's no greater victory than winning with people and having the right people in your camp. And it's inspiring. And by the way, the number one way I found to always elevate my game is to hire really talented, smart people for key roles on the team, because the way they see me and the way they interface actually changed the DNA of how I see myself. So, the more talent you have around you, the more talented your subconscious brain knows it needs to behave and act in a way that'll not necessarily to impress them, but to keep up, stay up, and be the leader that you tell yourself that you are.
Yeah. I mean, I think about this podcast, like I'm assuming either one of us could probably pull off a decent podcast, but you notice most podcasts are not one person, it's two, because two creates a richer experience, right?
100%.
The contrast in conversation, contrast in perspectives. It's your goal, but other perspectives around that makes your goal richer on the journey.
Absolutely.
All right. So, you didn't want me to poke fun at the day planner is what it was, but you keep the day
I was buying
planner
some
came up
time
last week, and they came up again this week. Like, you got this day planner conversation, and you talk about this day planner test. And I know, just for fun of the conversation, you've got a paper day planner you still keep on your desk in front of you. And yet I'm digital. I keep a calendar inside my Google, and I live and die by mine, just like you live and die by yours. But it's the same concept, just done very differently. So explain the day planner test.
So essentially, again, when I coach people and even when I look in the mirror and coach myself, which I want to get clear, everyone has the capacity to self-evaluate. This isn't something you have to go hire an expensive coach to do. But so the process is really easy. And the idea is to figure out what your big rocks are. This goes back to your intentions around each of your goals and making sure they're reflected in your schedule. And so the simplest way I can describe it is, if you're not getting the results you want, and you're coming up short, it's going to reveal itself in your day planner or in your scheduling device, whatever, and if the priorities aren't there, they probably don't happen, because if you don't schedule it, someone else schedules for you and you'll end up doing what they want. And again, it might not align with your best outcome. So the idea is you go highlight everything in green, in yellow that was work related. That's the 80-20 rule. That's the 80%. Inside of the yellow, you highlight anything green that was your top 20%. And some of this goes back to what's your dollar productive, or what are you worth per hour? And so there's a discussion about that in the chapter and how to calculate it. And the idea is you take the number of hours you invested in your job for the last 30 days or 60 days and divide by the money you made. That's what you're actually earning per hour, especially in a commission-based job. It's not, now if you have a salary and you know exactly what your employer pays you because it's on a W-2 and that's what they agree to pay you. And the only way I know to go in and have a compelling argument, by the way, to enhance your W-2 income is to ask them, what are the big rocks that if I helped you move those and you generate more revenue or create a better experience for the team that makes them more productive, how would that benefit you? How could I benefit you to the level that I'm worth more money to the organization? So that's how you do it in a salary position. In a commission-based position, it's all about attending to the things that lead to greater, higher returns, like writing contracts, making new relationships that generate new business, nurturing, past clients to make sure they continue to be repeat clients and clients that refer business, and planting the right seeds so that you bear fruit. But in our world, Brett, in the real estate world, there are behaviors, certain things you can do that are worth $500 or $1,000, $2,000 an hour. And then there's work that's $12 an hour. So when I say go through your day planner, highlight anything that's work related in yellow, that's literally anything from $12 an hour clerical work, like, processing paperwork, up to the $1,000 an hour lead generating, closing a deal, writing a contract, or going to closing.
Yeah.
So highlight it, but then take the green marker. So you're going to do 3 colors, yellow, green, and red. The green one, go back in the yellow and overlay green where you were doing $1,000 work. When is the $500? Whatever that metric is for your highest and best, it could be $50. There's no flaw, or, there's no wrong answer here other than getting really clear about where you're in your strength zone, making the most money possible and being the most productive you can be. And then red, go back with red and box out areas and be brutally honest when you're not even sure what you were doing. You were around. I mean, it's not like you didn't go into the office, but you must have been having 3 cups of coffee with a friend talking about, last night's Ted Lasso. Yeah, and so, but get brutally honest. And then the idea then is, when you have a clear picture of where you're investing your time, craft your perfect day starting tomorrow based on not having as little red and as little yellow as you can, and maximize the green. And so that's just one way to mentally connect the dots with a graphic image of how productive you are. And what I know is that if you hand me whether it's electronic or paper, your day plan in your last 30 days, in a few minutes, I can tell you how effective, how productive, probably how much money you made, depending on your vocation and what career you're in, and definitely your happiness and whether you're balanced in life and attacking all areas of the wheel of life so that you live regret-free.
There you go. Rick, I jokingly, you're telling me to take a yellow highlighter and I'm supposed to highlight my calendar, but mine's on my computer. So outside of giving you a little yellow mustache on my computer screen here, how do you do this exercise in a digital age?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're in the digital age, you're probably smart enough to figure this out.
Yeah.
And since I don't use it, I would assume there's a way that in your calendar, online or on your computer, you can box things and color code them. Yeah, so I would color code it electronically. And if that's not possible, print the dang thing out on your printer. Hopefully you have access to print.
Take your digital world and come back to paper.
And bring it to paper just long enough to test yourself relative. And by the way, eliminate the word test, use the word assessment. We're just assessing. But if you're not getting what you want, doing what you've done, you've got to do something different.
Got it. I think it's fun to play that way. The other thing you go through in this chapter, we're not going to cover here, but it's really that energy plan, the spiritual, physical, emotional, business energy, and how you do a really eloquent job of kind of breaking down how important those are. And I actually think we've done some of those on previous Mojo Mondays you could probably listen to as well. So I think it's only appropriate, sir, that we ask you one of the questions you're making us ask.
Yeah. Every
Uh,
chapter has some compelling questions, by the way, for introspection and, to be honest, collaboration if you do this in a group setting. The book was really created as part story and inspired experiential share, but also an operations manual with collaborative questions that you ask yourself and in a group so that you grow quantum leaps.
Yep. Question number 4 at the back of the chapter says, how do you typically begin each morning? Does it set the tone for a productive and rewarding day?
That's awesome and a great question. And it's something look, here's one thing I want to get clear on, Brett. Just because I, profess that these are things that makes for an amazing life, that doesn't mean I live a perfect life. No one does. Yeah. I'll miss a day or two. I'll fall off the cart and wagon and then have to regroup and double down and make up for it. But if you're living your best life ever, one day at a time, you can make up for it quicker than trying to live your best life 1 year at a time and wake up 3 years from now with regret. And so your question's awesome. And my lifestyle today as an author and as a consultant for our group and as an educator, it's a little less I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not as demanding. So I have the luxury of actually often waking up organically. I don't set my alarm for 5:30 like I used to, but after a 25-year run in business and some success, I think everyone in life can earn the right to be where I am and design and craft a life that they want. And that's the inspired part of the book I hope people really extract. That said, I'll answer your question very specifically. The things that are most important to me these days.
Is it my question or your question, really?
I can flip it to you.
No. Well, I'm saying you wrote it. It's your book. So
yeah, but it's an important question. Like, are your priorities showing up, and are they showing up first? Because they don't. And if they show up later, they probably get pushed to another day or maybe never.
So what's your morning look like?
My morning looks like I wake up organically, typically 7 to 7:30. I grab coffee. I spend some time in emotional energy. Part of that equation is connecting with the people that are most important. And sometimes it's a text to one of my kids to connect quickly, or ultimately it's probably time with my wife and we'll share a cup of coffee. And then I find some sacred space. I'll shower, and then I find sacred space for spiritual energy, which I often read. In fact, right now I'm reading Tim Tebow's book. It's a daily devotional, and it's spiritual, and I think it's well written and I'm enjoying it. So I'll read the daily passage. I'll reflect on it. I'll make a list of things I'm grateful for. And then what's cool though, and what I would recommend in the book, and I hope everyone does, is that I actually plan my to-do list and my priority list, which is better stated, the night before. So when I hit my office, I'm running. There's no gray area about what has to happen and what has to happen first. You knock down your big rocks, and if you do it all before noon or 1 p.m., the rest of the day can be what it'll be.
Yeah. And it is Mojo Monday, sir. I just want to point out as we're rolling out of here that probably one of the biggest Georgia Bulldog fans I know is reading Tim Tebow's book.
Oh, that hurt. I shouldn't have said that out loud, right?